The British and Irish Lions tour for 2021 gets underway, and it's a win for the British and Irish Lions, 28 points to 10 over Japan. A definite game of two halves. I can't help but feel if deliberately the Lions wanted to practice a wee bit of defence in that second half, or maybe just the Japanese sharpened up. Not sure. We'll go through some of the key events in this game. A couple of concerning injuries, potentially, and some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this first hit out between the Lions and Japan went. I think in terms of the game itself, the Lions will get a fair bit of value from this in terms of their attack. Got a fair run. The set piece looked pretty solid for the most part. They did a wee bit of defending at the end, and they certainly would have got something from the game. It was a tentative start. It was a wee bit messy from both sides in the first few minutes. It's just to be expected. The Japanese have only had the one warm-up game 2 weeks ago, and it's the first game the Lions guys are playing together. But interestingly, the Lions were going for touch. They didn't want any threes. They didn't want Dan Bigger to get a kick in practice. It was about practicing these set-piece moves. It was about, practicing these combinations, getting these guys working together, which makes sense in the scheme of things because, as I said, Dan Bigger doesn't need kick in practice. 6 minutes, Japan had to get themselves out of jail with a bit of a breakdown penalty as the Lions were opting for touch. But interestingly, when the Japanese guys had the ball, they just couldn't keep it. And it was clearly a tactic of the Lions guys to go for the choke tackles, which we've seen maybe not in as fashion as much as they have been in recent times, to try and get that kind of maul turnover. And I don't know that it's a tactic that will go well against the big South African boys, but they were certainly trying it in this game. It was clearly a tactic that they were employed. You would have seen it 3 or 4 times within the first kind of 10 minutes. Anytime the Japanese guys had the ball, the Lions guys were trying to hold them up and get a maul turnover. It did work at least once or twice in the game. Alan Wynne-Jones on 7 minutes went off with his wrist looking just absolutely floppy. It was horrendous. It looked like there was a gap or something. I don't know what was going on. I'm not a medical professional, funnily enough. You took one look at that and thought, man, his Lions tour's over in 7 minutes. But they did show him on camera after about an hour or so, and he looked okay in the stands. Maybe he just got a stinger, which deadened his arm, that he couldn't move it. I don't know. We will need to watch that one with interest. But man, it looked really bad. It looked really bad on first viewing. What didn't look bad was Josh Adams getting a try in 11 minutes. That guy is still class. I know he's got people who dislike him. He is a classy winger. He manages to get over the line in a position which not every winger would get over, but it's after a few phases from a line out, and Bigger with the sideline conversion makes it 7-0 for the Lions. Conor Murray gets charged down on 14 minutes. Bigger gets him out of dodge, and Bigger gets man of the match in this game because he is looking pretty sharp, to be fair. Duan van der Merwe scores a try also on the right wing. He's out of position, but he takes it at a proper canter, man. He just picks the ball up from the back of a ruck. There's nobody on the blind side. Give that guy space, man. He will take it. He is quick. And it's about 5 phases after a Henshaw intercept as well. Japan weren't able to really go more than 5 phases without either getting turned over at the breakdown, the choke tackle, or just dropping the ball. The handling was really average from Japan in the first half especially. Another sideline conversion from Bigger makes it 14-0. 21 minutes, another injury concern. Tipuric goes off. That one was Michael Leach trying to clean him out at the breakdown. He seemed to just catch him in the ribs. Rib injuries can be pretty nasty and take a while to recover from, but compared to the Alan Wynne-Jones one, it looked pretty innocuous. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how he goes to see if there's any news about Tipuric. But to be honest, the cohesion was still not there with Japan. They were looking really quite disjointed. 22 minutes, Henshaw gets the third Lions try of the game. It's a line-out maul. They get told to use it. Conor Murray just picks his man. It's Henshaw hitting the ball at a rate of knots. He's got a one-on-one with Lafayette, and he ain't going to stop him. And he doesn't. 21-0 to the Lions, and it's starting to look like a real rout at that point. 26 minutes, the Japanese finally get a line-out in the Lions 22, and it's not straight. Even if it was straight, it was too long. and they would have mishandled it anyway, but the ref does call it not straight. So yeah, it's looking pretty ugly for the Japanese. Matsushima did have a good snipe after a scrum, where he kind of got Murray to think he was going to go wide, and he cut back inside. So he chalked up some run meters, but there was nothing doing from it. And they did have one last chance to attack before halftime, but got turned over. So yeah, it was no points for Japan at halftime. The run meters are 149 to 156, with Japan edging it at halftime. But look at the kicks from hand, 21-9. 21-9. The Lions were just controlling the game with the boot. They were able to work their way upfield. Penalties conceded was 8 by Japan, only 5 by the Lions. So those penalties were able to get the Lions into the territory they wanted to be in. Their set piece is 100% for the Lions. The lineout's 100%. Japan 71. Turnovers conceded is 8 for Japan, only 4 by the Lions. So when Japan have got the ball, they're coughing it up. Clean breaks is 3-1 to the Lions. So it's a pretty dominant half from the Lions, you'd have to say. And the second half starts off the same. I mean, Liam Williams cops a arm to the nose, which is pretty ugly. He has to have a couple of things shoved up his nose to stop the blood from coming out early on. And 45 minutes, Courtney Laws blows his really good work to score a potential try. He goes over after a maul. He beats about 3 defenders. And as he's going to place the ball down over the line, it just bobbles out of his arms. So he did the hard bit and then mucked up the easy bit. So it's a knock on. So a bit of a get out of jail for the Japanese. But a few minutes later, Tyke Bird makes up for it with an absolute wonder try. He hits the ball at pace. Dan Bigger, I mentioned he gets man of the match, absolutely threads the needle. So Tyke Bird goes through between a couple of Japanese defenders. And he shows some real wheels for a loose forward. And it's 28-0. At that point, 28-0. Japan still weren't really in the game. It didn't look like they were going to get a point on the board. It had been all Lions. They'd been down their own end. They did start to get a few phases together, the Japanese, from about that point. Like Yamanaka had a nice grubber kick, but it was a bit too long, so the Lions were able to force it. Byrne sent them back downfield with a huge hoof. He played Gaelic football in the past, man. I don't know, because he's got a big old left boot on him, did Tyke Byrne. Good news for the Japanese, they managed to get one through Himeno, their substitute. He's been playing over here in New Zealand in Super Rugby in recent times, and he was in cracking form, and he showed it in this game. Him and the replacement scrum half for the Japanese played phenomenally well. They absolutely added an injection of pace for sure, because they were slow to the breakdown in the first half. Second half was a lot quicker. Japanese line-out move on 58 minutes is the Himeno try. They look to begin a set of maul, but they quickly move it to a second pod, which pushes Himeno over 28-7. Henshaw gets penalised for a seatbelt tackle on 63. The Japanese are forced to take a penalty because the T comes on, maybe a bit of miscommunication. Tamura doesn't look like he wants the shot, but he has to take it. He misses it. It was a tough one, but interestingly, a few minutes later, they win another penalty, and they do take it. At 28-7 down, I wasn't sure about the logic in taking the threes, but they take it, and it's 28-10. That's how the score finishes. But yeah, I would have thought they would have kicked for touch, but they go for the 3. The Lions, interestingly, go down to 14 men when I think Conan comes off. They don't have any substitutes to replace him. You gotta wonder, maybe it's just good practice for these guys to be practicing playing with 14 men because the game's not in any doubt. The tactics of the Lions don't seem quite the same as the first half. They're not competing at the breakdown as vigorously. They seem to be happy for Japan to play with the ball. And interestingly, as that happens, Japan's handling improves miles. They're throwing these crazy offloads and they're actually sticking. Some of them are going to ground. But yeah, their play's looking a lot better. But it's an interesting shift in the second half. It kind of felt like the Lions wanted to have a crack on defending just to see how it was going to go. Because the game was in the bag. I don't know. Tell me if you guys saw the same thing. Himeno did get held up on 73 minutes. The Japanese did go a few phases. Towards the line, it was Byrne that held him up. But yeah, they had a few cracks towards the end. Initially, when the game was over at 80 minutes, the Lions won a penalty. They still wanted to keep playing. I thought maybe they want to just play it safe. They've already had a couple of injuries, just kick it dead. They wanted to keep playing. Both sides had a bit of end-to-end stuff, but eventually into touch, and that was game over. But yeah, Interesting game. A couple of injury concerns. Big first half from the Lions. Their breakdown work, their set piece was really deadly. The Japanese weren't in it. Second half, the Lions will be disappointed if they were not planning on defending, that they were forced to do so. But either way, that's probably good prep for them. But it did feel like they took their foot off the offensive gas and were quite happy to kind of try and soak up some defense and just conceded the one try. As I said, Bigger gets man of the match. Henshaw would have been a potential other one. He's the top tackler for the Lions. He makes, what was it, 16 out of 16? Beats a couple of defenders. Tyke Burn has 49 run meters, makes 8 tackles. Matsushima was dangerous, 126 run meters, 7 defenders beaten from him and 2 clean breaks. He's going to be, well, he was maybe a good lesson for maybe, I think he got a bit of space out on the right wing. Duan van der Merwe with his defensive positioning maybe has a wee bit of learnings to do there. Moore, the lock for Japan, makes 18 out of 18 tackles, so certainly some good performers on both sides. Run meters finished 329 to 438, with Japan having more. The defenders beaten is 26-17, with Japan having more. Turnovers conceded, those 16 to 10. Japan on the wrong side of that stat. They don't want to be having more of those, but they did. Clean breaks finishes 6 to 5, with Japan having the one more. The Lions line out remains 100%. Japan improves to 86 in that second half. Penalties conceded 13 to 12. So the Lions, as I mentioned, in that second half, not as dominant, but they were playing with 14 men for quite some time. And it'll certainly do them some good to be doing a wee bit of defending. But yeah, 28-10, apart from some injury concerns, a fair bit to like about the Lions' performance, especially in the first half. They were looking almost unplayable. But as I said, the Japanese didn't really kind of come together until that second half got underway. Anyway, it is 4:20 in the morning. 2 a.m. games are not the best. But there you go, is what it is. If you're going to watch the British and Irish Lions, sometimes this is what you got to do. I'm going to go to bed. You guys take care of yourselves. Like the video if you got this way through, far through, 4 in the morning. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.